2. Hey, my name's Sean, and I'm your big homie from SJS Exotics and the host of the Big Homies Breakdown. And tonight with me, we have our co host, Mike Duvall from Morph Ave.
What's up,
Uh,
everybody? Welcome in.
what's going on, Mike? How you doing tonight, man?
Man, I'm excited.
Dude, I'm extra excited.
I can't
And
tell you how excited.
we were so
Mike.
excited. This is the second time we did this and realized it wasn't live the first time. So we're all live now, and we get a redo. It's like we had some Dragon Balls and made a wish to redo everything. Mike, you want to go ahead and pay them bills real quick, sir?
Yeah, we appreciate official sponsor for Chris Eaton and the Fat Man Nation. Go over there and check them out and check him out over the Fat Man Nation on YouTube, and also the fatmannation.com/support disabled vets. They're doing the Camp Freedom, the campaign to support disabled veterans. The shirts are $35. You can get them online at the fatmannation.com/support disabled vets there. That's going to be going till July 4th. And when that's over, it's over. But go get you a shirt. And also at the end of August, they're going to be going out there to Camp Freedom to give them a nice check, hopefully. I appreciate everybody that's already sponsored and donated.
Hey, Mike, if I could, anybody out there now that is watching this, and when I have animals available, if Chris tells you that you got the shirt, I'll give you $35 off because that's how much the shirts cost. So I'll give that to you in store credit at SJS Exotics anytime, any animal.
Yeah, for sure. As well as I make sure.
Why not?
Yep, for sure.
So we got a really cool guest tonight. But before we get to that, make sure you guys hit that like, share, and subscribe button so you guys don't miss another show. It really helps us out, and we deeply appreciate it. So without further ado, our guest tonight, man, when Mike told me he got this guy, I got super excited. And I'm still excited. I'm a little jittery, but it is Uncle
Still
Mike.
couldn't believe it. So
yeah. We got Uncle Mike from Mike's Monitors. Let's go ahead and bring him up to the stage, man. Hey, Uncle Mike, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, welcome in. We really appreciate it.
And just further on what you guys were saying, we live in a pretty messed up world right now, and I definitely applaud, thank, and support our military and Chris Eaton, Snakes and the Fat Man Network, for all he's doing for the vets. So a big shout out to Chris Eaton. Love you, brother.
Yeah, for sure. Also, if you're not already, go support U.S. Art in U.S. Art, Florida. Helps us out a lot if you're a keeper. We appreciate
it. Absolutely.
I got my U.S. Art shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
So
there you go, Mike. What do you got on the back of that one?
The back of this one?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
One is it? I can't see. You're a little high up.
Oh, I'm seeing.
Is that an axolotl? That's what it looks like, an axolotl. That's cool. I don't have that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so oh yeah, I guess it would help if I showed Big Mike while he was doing it.
You're
Sorry
good
about that, buddy.
These cords going.
So, Uncle Mike, how long have you been doing this for, man?
Man, well, before we get into it, I got one more. I'm low tech, man, so forgive me. I still got that arrow in my face. I could see his, but should I press the arrow?
I don't know. Everything seems like it's going well now. It is live.
Okay, I see it's live, and I can see me right now, but I also have like the play arrow in my face.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe I should press it, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let me press it.
If anything happens,
there we go. Yeah, there we go. See, I'm an idiot.
No, you're all right.
You're
all
good.
Right, so what's happening, guys?
Too, man.
Yep.
So what is that? What did you want to get off your chest there, Uncle Mike?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to get off my chest. Big shout out to Snakes and the Fat Man. Thank you for all you do, Chris. You're like a brother from another mother. And all you do for the vets, I'm in 100% support. I have my shirt. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing it right now, but yeah, big shout out to Snakes and the Fat Man, Chris Eaton.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Chris is a good dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. They had a good show today. I think there was Chris there, Jay, Sammy. There was a bunch of people up there helping them.
Yeah. I wonder how many shirts they ended up selling today. Let's go ahead and before we get started, let's go ahead and see who's all in the comments here.
We got
All
Dickie
right,
Foster.
Mike, look at this, Mike. The replay homies. He's over here double dipping. Let's see. Hey, Dickie Foster. It's Australian for reptile. That's what I hear every time I see his name. So I think of those Foster beers. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Kristen and Darren in the house from Dark Desire Pythons. What's up? Oh yeah, we're definitely ready for a great show. We're definitely ready for a great show. That's for sure. So Uncle Mike, how long
Yes,
you
sir.
been doing this now, sir?
Oh, geez. I've been keeping reptiles like my 5th birthday. I got a 3-toed box turtle for my 5th birthday, and I just turned 60. I'll be 61 in October. So I don't know, man, what, 55 years of playing with reptiles, probably 30 years of serious breeding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And what is it you specialize in for people who might not know?
Well, I guess I'm known for my monitors, but I started in the snake world. I started with everything. Just like any normal kid, I had everything: toads, frogs, birds, fish, everything. And then, like in my early teens, I got I got into the colubrids and the rainbow boas, and then I kind of from that point I ventured into like a niche was North American desert rat snakes, which I loved. All the subocularis, the Rosalia rat snakes, Western green rats, and then my rainbow boas.
Oh wow!
And how I started with monitor lizards, I'm deeply invested in the reptile community. I always have been for a very long time. And I was vending at Lee Watson's Reptile Swap, which is an infamous show swap from up in my area. And a lot of big guys that were little guys back then, were coming up through that red barn. Ken Masak, which I'm sure you guys know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Brian Barczyk, Mark Bell. Just a lot of big names that at the time nobody was big, and then we just we all found our little niche, and we all became somewhat of a personality in this shit we're in, But
yeah, for sure.
Somebody had came up to me at the show at the swap, and I had just had a litter of rainbow boa babies, and this guy wanted to trade me for a peach throat monitor. Well, I didn't really like back then. What I knew was Nile monitors, Savannah monitors, and Asian water monitors. And when he said peach throat monitor is what hit in my head, and I was like, nah, I don't want no monitors, So he came back to me later in the show. At the end of the show is when all the dealers would swap and make deals. So this guy bring the peach throat to my table, and dude, I laid my eyes on this peach throat monitor. It was the most beautiful. It was the most beautiful lizard I ever seen, and I said, "Sure, man, I'll trade you, no problem." So I traded him for that peach throat, and literally in like 2 or 3 months, all of my snakes were out, and I was moving monitors in. So it started with the peach throats, green trees, black trees. And then it just exploded from there. I started collecting all kinds of stuff and, breeding, doing a lot of breeding. And then, so then probably, I have 8 children. So there was a point when I had my animals. I did concrete for 30 years and then I raised my 8 kids. That, my collection was more like, just a collection.
Do you live somewhere cold?
Pardon?
I said, where do you live? Somewhere cold?
Yeah. And hey, no worries, guys. My TV, I got the TV fixed now, so no more kids. But yeah, so then like as my kids were getting older, I started getting more heavily into it, and then probably the past 10 years, I've been really, really pounding. I mean, I've always had animals and I've always had monitors. But like probably the last 10, 15 years, I've been really crushing it with the monitor. Well, as good as it gets.
So all the years you've been doing this, 30 plus years now, what's your favorite species of monitor to work with?
Well, okay. So here's my newest story goes like this. So like Jayapura peach throat monitors, definitely that's the first species I bred. And I believe I was the first person in the United States who had bred those. And they always hold a special place in my heart. But there was a point when, back in the day, there was no Facebook and Instagram and all this other bullshit. It was like King Snake, it was kingsnake.com and the forums and things like that, like
paper mail, probably.
Yeah, an email, right? Exactly.
Right.
And on kingsnake.com, they used to put for the header of the monitor forum, they would change it every now and then. And one day, this black lizard with white rings around its nose and white striping on the throat.
Oh,
and yeah, and it was like, I mean, actually, Varanus togianus is the species I'm talking about. It was described in the 1800s by Peters. And at the time, there was really not a lot of information out about him. And I called up my friend, John Dragna, and I'm like, oh, cuz, what the hell is this thing? And he goes, that's a very rare monitor. Don't worry, Mike, you'll never see it. So, this one picture of this beautiful, beautiful fucking lizard just burned a hole in my head. And then all these years later, it's got to be, I don't know, 20, 30 years later, John had contacted me and he goes, hey, Mike, would you like to buy a group of Varanus togianus? I'm like, what the fuck is Varanus togianus? He says to me, he goes, do you remember that picture? That's all he had to say. And I was like, holy shit, no way. So I wound up getting that group and then a couple of others literally in the 30 plus or, even longer years I've been doing this. The only 9 Varanus togianus that I've ever seen in captivity, I wound up with. So they're very rare. They're not easy to get. And I was actually the first person in the world to breed the species, and I'm working with my captive borns right now. But man, if you ever go to my Instagram page, check out OJ. OJ's my big male. I call him OJ because he's a big black lizard.
And me and Mike were talking about that backstage before you came on, Mike.
Yeah.
OJ, man. He's like, yeah, he's got this one named OJ. We were just talking about him.
Yeah, OJ's a killer.
Yeah, I've been watching you for quite a while. Also, this morning, that was a great show you and Jen did with Kai.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
For sure.
I appreciate that, guys.
No problem. Like I said, I try to follow everybody, and it's just so I don't need. I'm speechless right now to have you, come on and talk to us. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Hey, man, get that shit out of your head, man. I'm just a guy like you guys, man. I just have a passion for these animals, and believe me, I'm nothing special. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah, no, I was telling Sean that you're like the Brian Bartrick of monitors. Uncle Mike's monitors is like the Brian Bartrick because what you see in person, online, or even just meeting you, you're saying hello to everybody. It's you.
I can attest to that. Every time I've been to Philly, Uncle Mike shook my hand. Still don't know who I am yet.
Yeah,
but he said hello, and he shook my hand and spent a few minutes to talk. And but you're usually surrounded by 500-600 people at a time when you go to Tinley.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that talk to me, and trust me, it's my misspent youth. I believe me, I had it rough coming up. I did a lot of crazy things I shouldn't have done, and my memory kind of. I'm terrible with names. And so, yeah, forgive me if I ever am forgetful, but that's just the nature of the beast,
We were talking the other day. Just curious of where you come up with Uncle Mike.
Yeah, you know what? So Uncle Mike, of course, I have actually 4 nephews, and of course, that's Uncle Mike. But in the reptile community, MJ, Mike Juarez with the Trap Talk Network, he just one day blurted out Uncle Mike. Now it kind of caught like wildfire. Everybody calls me Uncle Mike, so I go with it, man. I actually love it.
Go figure. It was MJ that got you onto that, dude. That's dope. I love MJ.
Yeah.
And I you know what? I actually started watching him when I moved out to Missouri and started getting into breeding and whatnot. And I was like, man, I think that dude's from California. He gives me a Cali vibe every time I see him. And sure enough, he was from Southern California, which kind of threw me off, but I was cool with it.
Yeah, he's you know, like I said, I'm 60, and you know, Mike could be one of my kids. MJ could be one of my kids. So, you know, I'm a little more. I've been through it all, bro. I've been through everything. I mean, you know, I'm a recovering drug addict. I've been clean for 10 years. So I've been through the trap talk people. I've been through the normal people, you know, church people. I kind of connect with a lot of people. And yeah, it's just the way it is. Like when me and Chris Eaton, you know, when we first started talking, I mean, talking to Chris Eaton was like actually having another brother, you know. So I love the, you know, I always say I'm not really like a people person, but I guess I really am. You know, I want to help people in my older age now. You know, I'm not confrontive. I'm more laid back. I like helping people. I like seeing people win. So I'm always cheering for, I don't care if you're my direct competition. I hope you do well. That's what life is all 100%. About, man. We got to lift each other up and not crack each other down. Those people who crack each other down, I ain't got no time for that. I don't.
Me neither.
Yep.
We have a question in the chat, my Uncle Mike, if you don't mind, from Kristen at Dark Desire Python. She wants to know, what do monitors eat and how big do they get?
Oh man, that's a good question. So monitor lizards are mostly carnivores. So they're eating a lot of meat, bugs, proteins. There are frugorious monitors that eat fruits. And they will take, you know, varies, like, you know, you see people like Tom Crutchfield who give a grape to a croc monitor. Of course, these monitors, they can never, even the real true frugorious monitors, they couldn't sustain their lifestyle and their size by eating only fruit. So they're mainly carnivorous, and you have them anywhere from, you know, 4-inch long Varanus kingorum to, you know, Komodo dragons, which is the largest varanid in the world.
Right.
So yeah, the sizes are just, you know, again, I try to help everybody, but there is a point where, you know, and I appreciate the question, Christian, or whatever your name is. I'm forgive me again, no, but
it's okay, Uncle Mike. It's Christian.
There's so much to learn about varanids that, you know, you just get on there and start doing a little bit of research. I can guarantee you, when you start researching monitor lizards, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. And you know what? I pray for you to come back, because most of the time people get into monitors that they're stuck. They're stuck for life.
Right, so I'm stuck in the peach throat hole right now. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, I really think that's going to be the first one I get.
I have peach throat monitor. And again, in the monitor world, we don't use a lot of common names. We generally go with the Latin names because it's more precise. I mean, if somebody says, I have a yellow monitor, well, there's 3 or 4 different yellow monitors. So you'd have to go with the Varanus flaffens or, you know, Varanus malinus. So we tend to stick with the Latin names, so you know exactly what you're talking about. So there's Varanus jobiensis. That's peach throat monitor. Your typical Jayapura Varanus jobiensis. That's what you're normally seeing. However, over the years, there's been, you know, what they call, and here again, we go with the common names. So they're called silver peach throats, and they're not peach throats at all. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a pair right now of, again, I'm going to throw up the air quotes so you kind of follow me here. Varanus joviensis from the Batanta Islands. Now, these animals are nothing like peach throat monitors. So they're nothing like Varanus joviensis. They're colored differently. They behave differently. And of course, they're from a different locality, which, in talking with my friend Robert Spracklin, who's he's a professor and a taxonomist, and we're working to have these renamed, reclassified from Varanus joviensis to whatever they come up with a new name, because they actually do deserve their own name. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I was telling Sean. Sean's like, well, what about the monitors that you have? I was like, Sean, my phone, when it tries to pronounce stuff, we'll have to wait till we get Uncle Mike on there to have him pronounce it. So
yeah, there are some tough ones in there for sure.
I could butcher some up too, but for the most part, it's almost like you read them you say them how they read, and then you're in good shape.
Yeah.
So I was telling you guys earlier about me breeding the world's first Varanus togienus, which is definitely my favorite species. These things are so beautiful. Go back into my Instagram and look up any of the photos or videos I have of OJ. Man, you're just going to see the most beautiful lizard there is. And what I really like about him is, these are highly intelligent animals. And over time, they really lose their fear of you if you don't do nothing stupid. If you do something stupid, they're going to remember that and they're not going to like you. But as long as you treat them with respect and you understand that when you stop and you look at say a boa constrictor, okay, you got a big boa constrictor. 2 weeks ago, you fed him a big rat, and now all of a sudden he comes out of this slumber, which it's just a different life strategy. Which, one is not different than the other. It just works different for their niche in the world. So, they eat a big meal, they go find a nice place to hide, and then they digest their meal. And then they kind of like if you have a big boa in your cage and he's digested a big meal and you tap on the window, that fucker, his eyeballs don't move, nothing. He's in the zone. He's digesting his food. He's got no need to move. Now, a monitor lizard, I literally feed mine every day. And when you look into the eyes of a monitor lizard, and this is what really got me with them. When I was holding that first peach throat, I'm holding it in my hand, and I'm literally, after I was astonished by the full body beautiful of this animal, I just really started honing in on its eyes. And as I was looking at this lizard, and I'm looking at this lizard in his eyes, and I realized that he was looking back into my eyes, and this fucker, he was trying to figure me out, and that intelligence is what really dragged me in to the monitor world. They're so highly intelligent, and just as much as you're admiring them, they're looking back at you thinking, oh, I hope the food monkey brings me another snack or whatever, but they're highly intelligent. And that's what I really love about them.
Yeah, they probably can tell that you're probably, if you go and somebody has like a bad day or something and they go in like stressed. I bet those monitors, like you were saying, they go in and they can tell that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, along with the beauty of these animals, their intelligence, you can really work with their brain. So, if you're a dick to them, trust me, they look back at you like, hey, you're a dick. And they act accordingly. So over the last several years, I've developed what I call Mike's Monitor socialization caging system. And what this
anti-dick formula.
Yeah. What this system does is after the years of understanding these animals and figuring them out, it caters to their security needs. And once you cater to their security needs, they feel very secure. So once you do that, and I socialize my animals before I sell them out to the people, and then it's up to the people to continue the work that me and my son have done with these animals. And and of course they're used to looking at this mug. They get used to this mug. So I mean, they could get used to any mug if they're getting used to this. But once you buy an animal from me and you get them into your home and you start working the Mike's Monitor socialization caging system, they have to get used to your face. These are highly intelligent animals. So you're not the bearded guy. You're not the bearded monkey that brings me food. So you got to become that for them. And,
so typically if somebody was to buy a monitor from you, how long does that new socialization take place before they're like, oh yeah, all right, he's the new monkey?
Okay, well, generally, when you get them from me, they're well socialized. So it doesn't take much time at all. And even if you were to buy, so when I developed this, I used this for all of my captive born animals. Now, captive born animals are totally different than wild caught animals. So wild
100%.
caught animals, they know no bounds. They know no limits there. They never bump into a wall, so when they come in, the trappers who catch them, they don't treat them the best. They hold them in these concrete bins, with very little food and water for months until they fill their quotas. Then they export them here to us. Now, those animals, without my socialization caging system, if you're good, it might take you a year to socialize your animals. However, when I got my Togianus, they were all adults. And when I got them, I said, you know what? I wonder if my socialization caging system would work on these high-strung wild-caught animals. So I had gotten these animals, and the people I got them from were telling me, I had to ask them, I'm like, why would you get rid of such, the rare and beautiful lizards? And, they would all be honest with me. They say, well, Uncle Mike, as soon as I touch the doorknob going into my reptile room, I could hear them bouncing off the walls. They're very skittish. So what I did was I created my Mike's Monitors socialization caging system on a larger scale for larger adult animals. And those animals that were in captivity for 2 years and would never show themselves to their prior owners, in 2 months' time, I had OJ crawling on my arm. So it works very fast. But and again, what I want to say here too is I don't want to keep rambling, but this is very important part of the equation. I tell people all the time, when you get your animals from me, and you come home from work and your wife says, you bastard, throw the garbage out, cut the lawn, so when you go down, you had a bad day, your kids are screaming and crying, whatever. When you go down to work with your monitor lizards, man, you literally got to do, you got to clear all that bullshit out of you, because they, like a dog, they pick up on your stress, your anger, your kindness. They really pick up on it. And if you go down there all tense, that's what you're going to get back from your animal. You're going to get tension. But if you go down there calm and assertive, boy, they really, they understand that. They're like, wow, he's not being aggressive with me. He's kind of, authoritative, and I better, watch my P's and Q's with this guy. So when you understand the brain of these lizards, and I know this is getting deep, but it is deep. It really is deep. And I really want to drive that home with these animals. They're not for everybody, but you got to really, before you start working with them, clear the bullshit of your day out of your brain, out of your energy field. And you come at these animals calm and relaxed. And that's what you're going to get back. And it takes time, sure. But it really works.
I can appreciate that. I have a pit bull. She's very high strung.
Mm-hmm.
And
she reads your every emotion.
God, yes. Yep. God, yes. And she's on you too.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the intelligence of monitor lizards have been compared to birds of prey, parrots. They're highly, highly intelligent. They watch your eyes. They pick up on your emotions. So once you learn all of that, it's it becomes easier to work with these animals. And there's nothing like it, like a monitor lizard that will trust you. There's nothing like it in the world. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I could imagine. Kristen has another question. How many monitors do you have or do you keep, and how big of a space do they require?
Well, they're, like I said, with their sizes, they're all different. So, I have approximately 20 adults and probably at any time, maybe 40, 50, 100 babies at a time. So I got quite a few, which doesn't really sound like a lot, but these monitor lizards are everyday work. You have to change their water every day. A lot of them poop in their water. So you got to clean up after them. My animals as a breeder, I feed them daily. Males lighter than females. Females get fed a lot heavier. But yeah, and it's your prey items too that you're using. Like, I mean, I can't preach this enough. And it really bothers me when I see even, bigger name people who go to the grocery store and they'll buy a package of chicken legs. It's like, man, they'll eat it. Of course. I mean, they're hungry. You give them a chicken leg, they're going to eat it. However, it's not good for them. Processed food from a butcher shop has all kinds of hormones in it, all kinds of preservatives. And, whether you think, oh, I get mine from the butcher.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to work in a butcher shop, and let me tell you something, the way they clean a butcher shop at night it's unbelievable. They use so many different chemicals and scalding water, to kill E. coli and salmonella and all these other bacteria. Now, butchers tend to, and butchers tend to come in they come in the morning, 4:00 in the morning. Well, I don't care how good of a butcher you are. If you don't wipe down the knives and the slicer and the countertop, and there's just a little bit of that cleaning, antibacterial and antimicrobial left. And it goes, and it might, people say, oh, I've been feeding chicken for years. You know what? For years, what you've been doing is you've been introducing these chemicals slowly but surely. And the reason I'm so crazy about this is because anytime these big dogs who it's laziness. It's really what it boils down to. It's laziness and the convenience of going to the store to get food that they'll eat. It's not good for them because over the years, now they call me. Of course, they don't do it publicly. It's always privately. Hey, Uncle Mike, my monitor lizard is quivering. I'm like, okay, well, what? And I already know what the answer is. I'm like, what are you feeding them? They're like, well, I give them ground turkey and, drumettes. I'm like, that's your problem. You need to stop that. And they're like, oh, what can I do for it? Well, here's something that I mean, I'm no vet, but this is something I've been doing for years when animals get, I don't know, for lack of really saying the proper word, when they get poisoned, when they have a buildup of the toxins in their body, what I tell people to do is, I said, do you have a fire pit in your backyard? I said, okay, yeah, you got a fire pit. Okay, don't put no lighter fluid on it. Just go out there and start a fire. And when the fire dies down, take out one of the logs that's a little charred and take a knife and just scrape off some of the black char and put it in a pile. And now dunk a prey item. Just put some of that charcoal on there and you give it to your animal. Well, what that charcoal does, I mean, I'm Italian, so my nana gave me charcoal out of the fire pit when I was a kid and I had agita, you know what I mean? What it does is it neutralizes toxicity in your body. So, I mean, I'm sure I have 2 daughters that are vet techs and they actually have like a charcoal, like paste, but I say to people, why are you going to go buy that when you could just make it in your backyard with a burning log, And people are like, oh, are you sure? And they show me, the log. And I'm like, nope, leave the white stuff alone. Take that black char. And they'll show me, they scrape it off. I said, now take a small meal, like a quail, and, wet the quail and then roll it around in that charcoal, give it to your animal and call me tomorrow. They call me tomorrow and they're like, well, he's getting much better. I'm like, yeah. So it just goes to show you that grocery store diet is garbage. If you see anybody, I don't care how big they are, if they're feeding grocery store food, ground turkey, chicken necks, chicken legs, chicken breasts, even a fish that's been like filleted and you take all the guts out of it, dude, that the guts is the goodness.
Yeah.
You're giving it muscle meat and a little bit of bone. They want the brain, the eyes, the liver,
the kidneys.
Well, you know
all
what?
of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's all because, and here I try to make sense to people so they understand it. So I say, hey, you're feeding them processed food. Why are you feeding them processed food? Well, my wife was going to the store. I said, okay, so you're lazy. Does your animal deserve that laziness when this is the results? And
Hey,
then
Mike,
yeah.
What are you doing to feed those animals? Are you producing your own feed, or
No,
I'm a
I
little
buy in.
curious as to what you're feeding them, because I mean I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it all over YouTube and everything, man. Where
Yep,
people go to the store and they buy all this meat and
it's the
feed their
worst.
monitors, everything.
It's the worst.
So there's curious folks like myself who don't know much about them.
Well, so
That
here, let me boil down diet for you real quick. That's your question, right? Is diet?
Yeah, basically. So how would we feed them if we're not going to the grocery store?
Okay, well,
How would you go about getting that?
here's what you want to do. Again, another part of laziness is, well, I could go to the pet store and buy a rat. Okay, well, a rodent diet is not the best for monitor lizards. Sure, once in a while, there's no problem. However, it's a large, you got to understand, these are high metabolism animals. So they don't want to be bogged down with a giant rat that they got to digest 3 or 4 days in their body. So what I do, and what I've always done, is I give them multiple small meals. So, 5 quails, 5-day-old quail chicks, 5-day-old chicken chicks, fertilized quail eggs. Like I get 14-day fertilized quail eggs. So they incubate them for like 14 days. And like the day before they're going to hatch, I tell them, pull them and send them to me, and, freeze them and then send them to me. So quail eggs, fish, insects, this is all good stuff.
It's pretty lean too. Lean meat.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. Like I could feed we'll say, for example, my big male coming eye. He's probably 5.5 feet long. He's probably about 7 or 8 pounds, and I'll literally feed him 10 quail chicks or chicken chicks a day, and the next day he's looking for 10 more. So that's what they are. They are food processors. So when you give them that food, they break it down. They break it down quick. They break down the beak, the brain, the bone, the innards, the feet, everything. They break it down very quick. So when you give them a larger prey item, it bogs them down. And if you know anything about monitor lizards, that's how they start storing fat. And when they start storing fat, it's just a recipe for disaster. When you see like Jay Brewer and all these other guys with these giant monitor lizards that are shaped like a football, I don't know if they think that's cute or it's cool to have that, but a monitor lizard should never look like a football. Even when I just get done feeding my animals, they never look like a football. And in 2 days, that lateral line should come back. I see these people post pictures of their monitor lizards every day, and never once is there the lateral line visible on that animal. And what happens is when, in the wild, they store fat, because in the wild, they're storing this fat for a time of lean, like when prey's not available, it's too hot or it's too rainy, and they need to go bunker down, and they live off of these fat stores. However, when the time of plenty comes back, their fat stores are all burned off, and now they're looking to restore that again. When you keep these fat stores full and loaded, that's where you get that football shape in your animal. And what happens is those fat stores, I've cut many lizards open that have passed. And those fat stores people think that's an organ. I'm like, that's not an organ. That's fat stores. It's not, it's not their lung. It's not their liver. It's a fat store. And what happens from the fat store is now you get fatty liver disease. And then once the animal becomes, once their liver becomes fatty, and the next step is their kidneys shut down and your animal dies. So I see a lot of people with these big lizards, and I just it hurts my heart to know that that animal is going to suffer. I don't want my kidneys to go. Put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Kristen has another question about how many eggs average does the adult female lay?
Oh, it depends on the species too. My friend Nick Lillis, he just had black dragons lay a 25 egg clutch. And that's a big animal. That's a lot of eggs. That's very taxing on a female's body. So, and I've had Gilleni and Kingorum that are 4 inches long, lay 6 eggs. And then there's animals like peach throats and the Indicus complex, which generally have low counts. So between 3 and 7 eggs, that's 7 eggs would be a decent clutch. But it depends on the species. And again, that's where your own personal research comes in. And I have a lot of information on mikesmonitor.com.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have
ask?
Another question I have for you actually, Kristen, what are some of the complications of like breeding the animals, breeding like the monitors, if there's any?
That's a very, very good question when it comes to monitor lizards, because monitor lizards are very particular about nesting. So if you don't have your nesting right, these females will walk around in a panic with these eggs in them because they want to continue their species. They want to survive, and survival is breeding. So if your nesting is not on point and she's not comfortable with a good nesting area, they hold on to the eggs too long, and worst case scenario is they become egg bound, and then the eggs go septic in their bodies and they die. Another bad sign is if you have a female that just scatters her eggs in the enclosure. They're just here, they're in the water dish, there's some over there. That's telling you they're not happy with their nesting conditions. So for breeding monitor lizards, it's before you even attempt to breed, you got to get your nesting right. And whole cage nesting is, it's a big hassle, but it works. It's the best way to do it. I have, I collect my own dirt from my in-laws farm. And they're very particular about the dirt that they lay in and, the proper temperature and the humidity of the soil. So it's a balancing act. And, until you start doing it, you're not going to understand until you start doing it. And of course, I'm from the old school where I learn more from my mistakes than my successes. So I've been there, I've done that, figured out a bunch of stuff, and yeah, nesting is key to breeding monitors.
Awesome. All right, thank you for the questions, Kristen. We really appreciate. She's really dialed in tonight with the questions.
Yeah, sure.
So what would you suggest for someone who's maybe a first-time monitor owner, like they've done their research and now they're trying to think about what would be a good first monitor to get their hands onto? What would you suggest to somebody?
Well, every person, every monitor person you talk to will tell you this and that, and it depends on. What I always tell people is, what's your commitment level? Are you committed to a 8 foot by 4 foot by 6 foot enclosure? Or are you, do you live in an apartment, a condominium? Then you'd be looking more at like Ackies, any of the Audatrias, which are dwarf monitors. But that's not always the best way to go. If you're committed and you want to build a big enclosure, I mean, like sulfur water monitors are a great place to start. Again, understanding that these get big. These are big. A female gets 6 foot, male gets 7 foot, and they require a lot of space, a lot of food. Your enclosures, you got to graduate them up. So it all depends on your commitment level.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of how many hours a week you think you're putting in when you're working with your animals there?
Dude, I probably put in 5 hours a day every day, and that's Monday through Monday. There's no oh man, I'm not feeling it today. Even when I'm not feeling it, I got to at least go down and give them fresh water. So water changes daily, depending on what species you have. If you have water shitters, you're changing water daily. So
yeah, absolutely.
So much. Oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, if Kristen and anybody, I'm always available to help you. All you got to do is find me on the social medias, send me a private message. I'm always glad to help people that are willing to. I'm not going to hold your hand, but I'll lead you in the right directions. And of course, you got to do your own little bit of research.
Come on, Uncle Mike.
Yeah,
come on, Uncle Mike. I need my handheld though.
I tell you, I would love to hold everybody's hand, but I don't have that kind of time. So I'll put in the effort. If you put in the effort, we'll work together and we'll get things figured out.
There you go. Have your shit ready when you come to Uncle Mike.
That's it.
Yep. Man, that's awesome, man.
Go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead, Mike. What you got?
No, I'm good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
So,
do you have any outdoor enclosures where you're at, or do you do all indoor enclosures? I
do all indoor enclosures, and I don't know how much you guys follow the monitor world, but 90% of the people who do monitor lizards outside, they're not that successful because you can't control Mother Nature. And to breed these animals consistently, you got to be in control. You got to be in control of their temperatures, their humidity. Ron St. Pierre is another, a well-known guy in this shit. And, he done tegus outside in Florida, which, are great. I mean, that's perfect climate for tegus. And his wife does bearded dragons and, I don't know, potato lizards, them long, fat little things. Skinks, yeah.
Yeah.
And that seems to work well out in Florida. However, when he tried the monitors outdoor in Florida, he was in contact with me for a little while, and he was asking me about how I breed my Mertens. And I tell him, dude, I keep them, number one, I keep them hot as fuck, so you're in good shape. He goes, not so much. He says, we might get a storm that comes through, and it's cloudy for 2 or 3 days. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work well for him. Because literally 365 days a year, my Mertens enclosure, the ambient air temperatures is between, like, the low end is 80, and it's generally 95 degrees with 150-degree basking area, and the females need that for egg production. So unless you live like where they're found, you're not going to have much success outside with monitor lizards. You don't have enough control.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I'm not deep into the monitors. I do ball pythons and crested geckos and leopard geckos, but definitely is something I've been wanting to try here.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, bro. No, yeah. I'm playing with you.
Was like, what?
I'm playing with you, man.
Yeah, no, they sound
I usually say that to ball python breeders, but I'm only playing, man.
Man. I ain't worried about it.
Believe me, I love all reptiles, but I'm a monitor guy through and through.
I just love the intelligence level of them, man. Like when you look them in the eye and they look you back, they're thinking about you. Like you were telling me backstage, it's like you definitely know they're thinking something.
Yep,
and
they're trying to figure you out, man. Definitely.
And they're either trying to find the nearest exit or they're trying to find a way to bite a finger off and run.
or they're trying to, I don't want to put that rap on them because they do become very tractable. So they're very, and they're not dumb. So they're not going to bite your hand like just to bite you. Like if they're in food
Most
mode,
animals don't.
if they're in food mode and you get your hand in the way, you're going to get bit, but they bite and let go. These animals are highly intelligent, and they're not going to waste their time biting you thinking they're going to eat something. They're going to tear off your food. They're not going to do that. So
it's just like ball pythons in a way, If you smell like a rat, you're probably going to get bit.
There you go. Same with these monitor lizards. If you smell like food, they're going to try to bite you.
So, Kristen had a question on here, man. How many monitors do you keep, and how big a space do they require? That was going to kind of be the question I wanted to ask you. Like, if you do all of your monitors inside the house, what do you have, like a whole house or a facility or something?
Yeah, my basement. I have my room is probably. I don't know. You could see some room tours that I've done, even on my Instagram. My first pinned video is a room tour. So my biggest enclosure is 10 feet by 5 feet by 6 feet, and it has a 300-gallon tub in it that's full of dirt for nesting female. And then my smallest enclosure might be 2 foot by 3 foot tall by 2 foot deep. It just depends on the species, like I was saying. But my whole setup in my basement is probably, I don't know, probably maybe 50 feet long, maybe 40 feet wide with all my cages in there. It's nice. It's like half of my basement.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. So do you have help? I mean, it sounds like it's quite a bit of a chore.
It is.
What I mean? Like, it's definitely not a beginning level animal that anybody should just be getting their hands on. This is definitely the next tier.
Yes.
You gotta be on your game.
When I talk with my guy Nick Lillis, I try to be humble. I don't want to come off cocky or anything like that. But yeah, there is almost like an elite level to keeping these animals. Like, to keep them happy is one thing, but to keep them happy and constantly breeding, it takes work, man. It takes time. It takes work. My son Angelino, he's a big help to me. My 2 daughters are vet techs, so they're always working medically with me. And so it's usually just me by myself. A couple days a week, my son Angelino, he comes in and helps me do my work, and he socializes the animals with me. And we were talking about your demeanor when you go with your animals. So my son Angelino, he's like a gorilla. But he's very calm. He's very even keeled, and he could take monitor lizards that will bite me, and they'll come right to him like he's daddy. So again, it depends on your demeanor, and he's very, very good working with these animals. So yeah, I get help from my son and a couple of my daughters.
That's awesome.
So how much longer you think you're going to do this for, Uncle Mike?
Oh, man, you know what? As long as the good Lord allows me, I'll keep doing it. And, even then, I probably won't give up right away. But I as long as I could keep getting down to my room, I'll still do my work.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm 60 years old now, and, I'm kind of broken down after doing concrete for 30 years. I've had a couple of bad injuries, and my legs are really shot. But, once I get, like the stairs are bad. But once I get to my work, I'm able to do, of course, I've made everything for this, like knowing that I'm breaking down and, I can't haul dirty water tubs anymore. So I have everything on drains. Everything's like, my lights are automated. you know, I have a sink down there for keeping everything clean and tidy and clean. And I have a hose that I wet everything up with. But yeah, for the most part, the drains are a lifesaver because all I do is turn a valve. Everything drains. I rinse their water tubs out, close the valve, fill them back up, and that cage is done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, Big Mike, if people were looking to get a hold of you, how else can they get a hold of you? You got your website and your social medias, right?
Yep. I got Instagram. I got Mike's Monitor on Instagram. Mike's Monitors on YouTube. I have mikesmonitors.com. And I have Mike's Monitor on Facebook, but I hate it. I rarely go there. So if you have any questions, you could direct it to Michael Stefani. And my logo comes up, so you'll know it's me.
All right, man. Like I'm kind of, a little bit out of my place here. Thank you, Mike, so much for coming tonight.
Man, anytime, guys.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it, man. I've already learned a lot. I'm probably going to be reaching out to you here sooner or later, probably sooner more than later.
Anytime. Anytime. Always glad to help.
Man, we're going to go ahead and put you backstage, and we're going to wrap this up. And we're just so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Thank you, guys, and God bless everybody watching.
And go support US Arc.
And support US Arc, absolutely.
Sorry, Mike.
Get your shirt. Yeah, man. Make sure you guys get out and get them shirts, man. I mean, they're helping vets. They're helping them do activities and stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a vet, the more activities I have, the less time I have to think about all that other crap that went down.
Yeah, for sure.
So get your shirts, man. Give them something to do so that they don't have to sit there and just stew on the thoughts of what they've done before. Give them something else to stew on. Hey, next week, you know who we got next week, Big Mike?
No, go ahead and tell them. I can't. Go ahead.
It's Shane Kelly.
Small Town Exotics.
Oh, yeah. From Small Town Exotics. We're going to break it down next week with Shane. So make sure you all tune in next week. And, man, thank you all for coming out. And we will catch y'all next week.
Don't forget to hit the smash that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please go subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you can get notified when we go live. Every Saturday is at 8 Eastern.
Oh, yeah. You guys have a wonderful night. Thanks so much for coming out. And till next time, we'll see y'all. Hey, and if you're watching this show after, make sure you put hashtag replay homies in the comments so we can shout you out next week. And until next week, we'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Good night.